Hello, Dane. Today has been a difficult day. Now, what makes it most difficult is the awareness that all of the challenges are within. So, what is the challenge that is largely self-referential that I'm recreating at this point? And also, why is that so challenging? Well, I had a magnificent dream last night of, wonderful parties and pleasure and easy relating, and it was an incredible dream. However, as I began to wake up, there was a part that said, no, it's not ready. I'm going to get tired if I wake up now. Let's go back to sleep. Later, as I began to wake up and feel the pleasure, there's a part that came in and said basically that I'm going to get in trouble for enjoying this pleasure, and so began to tighten my calf muscles and my thigh muscles to a chronic state of hypertension that I've lived with for years. Then I'm enjoying the memory of the dream, and I feel disoriented. I feel dissociated. I feel in unfamiliar territory, and I feel a bit lost, and so I try and find myself. Find the family or the familiar part, which is the lonely, aching part that I am familiar with, the lonely, aching part. So I feel a relax. Okay, there's the family. There's the familiar part. It's lonely and it's aching. Okay, now I know where I am. I don't feel unfamiliar. But then comes the fear of that family, of that familiar part, the part of me that doesn't want to be in aching loneliness for all eternity. And so I become afraid of that feeling, but on the other hand, afraid of leaving the feeling. Right? So there's my dichotomy. And I'm back into misery and depression, existing between the pole of clinging to the family, the familiar, and clinging to the fear of the family, of the familiar, which is that lonely, aching pain. And then the witness observer part of me says, I'm never going to let go. I'm going to cling to the family, to the familiar, which is the worst moments of my life as part of the spiral or circle of PTSD. And I'm not going to be able to enjoy anything because I'll hold on to that. And then I'll be afraid of it as I hold on to it. So the day is shot within the first 5 minutes, because it doesn't matter how much money I make. It doesn't matter what I eat. It doesn't matter what I do. I will, if I do something particularly enjoyable and lose that family, that familiar part of aching, terror, and loneliness, some part of me will say, what's happening? Who am I? Where am I, right? If I go numb and want to feel something, I will remember the pain and the loneliness and stimulate the feeling. If I start to focus on something positive and exciting, I will say, well, I don't want to lose touch with reality, with, my identity, and I will go back to that. And then as soon as I'm feel the half second of relief that I'm back in familiar misery, I will then fear being stuck in familiar misery forever, which is a legitimate fear because I bring myself back there. And I'm in a maze, right? I don't, right? There's so much loneliness of a certain sort that clinging to the family, to the familiar, eases the loneliness and the lost sense of self. Right? So that is the pattern. It's a depressing pattern because both the terror of being lost, the attachment to the misery and loneliness, and the fear of the misery and loneliness, they're all very strong. They're the strongest things that I know. And so when I think of achieving a goal, I don't want the goal more than I want one of those things, the attachment to the familiar, the finding something so that I'm not alone, and the fear of that misery. All of those I want more than the goal. And there's a sense of asking for permission, like, is there anything that I can do that there is space to do, that there is space to feel within that dichotomy, that triad of misery? And the answer is I can do some addictive things. I can escape as long as I feel miserable doing it, right? So I can watch movies and feel miserable doing it. I can rush around and feel miserable. I can feel miserable driving. But I can't just let it go, right? So that is I think a very well articulated expression of why 60% of my life has been lived in fear. And I do not have an answer to this dichotomy, but maybe you do.